letters from across China pile up like a mountain. More than 10,000 of them collected in just a few years in the 1990s. They are petitions from victims of war, people taken to Japan as forced laborers, families torn apart by indiscriminate bombings, and girls as young as 16 raped by Japanese soldiers. For decades, these victims never relinquished their rights to seek compensation from Japan. And in one modest Beijing office, that effort continues quietly, persistently, and against enormous odds. Time really matters here, and you can see it on this sign. It shows two Chinese characters mean change on horseback. Put together, they form the phrase, change at once. It captures the pressure and urgency people feel in this place. The group is called the China Federation of Civil Claims Against Japan. Born out of a movement in the early 1990s, it argues that Japan must acknowledge and compensate Chinese civilians harmed during the invasion from 1931 to 1945. That urgency grows as surviving victims pass away and as perception of war shift within Japanese society.
新しい首相になった日本の高市早苗さんがですね。
Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi recently made remarks suggesting that a Taiwan contingency should be treated as an existential crisis for Japan, and that the self-defense forces may even need to take military action against China. This shows that the recognition that the war against China was wrong is weakening in Japan.
Over the decades, Chinese victims filed more than 20 lawsuits in Japan, supported by the Federation and by Japanese lawyers like Kei Chiro.
State-to-state war reparations and individual victim compensation are two different things. Although the Chinese government renounced state-to-state war reparations in the 1972 joint communique between China and Japan, it did not and could not give up the right of Chinese civilian victims to seek compensation from Japan. That is why, for all these decades, we have continued to uphold this right.
A handful of cases did secure limited payments from individual Japanese companies, but always framed as humanitarian aid, not legal compensation. For the Chinese side, that distinction matters.
In the 1972 joint communique, Japan said it had deeply reflected on the enormous damage inflicted on China during the war. But in reality, since then, the Japanese government has not followed through, whether in confronting its aggression, addressing it in textbooks, or apologizing and compensating the victims. None of this has been carried out.
Both Chen and Kei Chiro have worked with Chinese plaintiffs for decades. They say that while legal channels in Japan are almost entirely closed, civil and political avenues remain.
At the heart of these claims is a simple point. Japan must acknowledge its wrongdoing. Without that acknowledgement, the resurgence of militarism is always a real possibility.
By demanding apologies and compensation for wartime abuses, China's victims are raising questions within Japanese society and urging reflection. And today, to prevent another war, they are still taking action.
Across China, many individuals and grassroots groups continue to push for accountability from Japan. From survivors of the Chongqing bombings and the Panjiayu massacre to those documenting Unit 731's germ warfare. And this push for accountability isn't unique to China. In the Republic of Korea and the Philippines, survivors and civic groups have also spent decades challenging legal barriers and pressing Japan to acknowledge wartime abuses. Their efforts, through lawsuits, petitions, and public advocacy, all aim at the same goal, securing justice for wartime victims and ensuring the history is neither forgotten or repeated. Li Shuang, CGTN, Beijing.